As you can see, I'm with my two little baby leopard tortoises here, and as you can see, they're on the move right now. And what we're going to be doing with them today is we're actually going to be setting them up in a brand new enclosure. So stick around. My name is Nick Pulaski. Growing up, I have always had a passion for wildlife, and with that passion, along with my passion of filmmaking, I get taken on some amazing adventures creating wildlife content, getting up close with a variety of incredible animals. So come follow along as I pursue my goals of educating, inspiring, exploring, and conserving wildlife, all while having fun, seeing the beauty in our natural world. Hey, what is going on, everybody? Thank you so much for joining me here today. It truly means the world to me. So as you know from clicking on this video, we are making a brand new habitat for my baby hatchling leopard tortoises right here. So these are these two little guys right here. It's going to be very similar to the redfoot enclosure that we made a few years back now. For the first year and a half of their life, they have very similar needs to what a redfoot would need, I would say, where they need the higher humidity. It helps with their growth and development. And from there, then they kind of transition over to being more of a drier species like they come from in Africa. So versus like South America for the redfoot tortoise. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be giving you guys a step-by-step way of how to be setting up this baby leopard tortoise enclosure like I'm going to be doing. So, all right, so I set the baby leopard tortoises down and we're going to get to building and setting this up. So if you saw my past, not too long ago, last year I set up a baby leopard tortoise enclosure, and that was actually with an aquarium. Aquariums, normally you can get away with it. You just have to block off the sides so they can't see out and they can't see the reflection. Otherwise they will be just kind of pacing the glass back and forth, and it actually stresses them out. I personally prefer, for tortoises all in general, for grow outs, to use one of these kind of tubs. This is a cement mixing tub. I have the larger of the sizes of cement mixing tubs. I don't know the exact dimensions on this, but it is a large cement mixing tub. This worked perfectly for Daisy before we upgraded her into this enclosure back here. This 8-foot redfoot enclosure right behind me, we upgraded her to that. If you want to know how to build one of these things, I will definitely leave a link for this down below. This would work perfectly for a leopard tortoise, or really any tortoise species really. You just have to set these things up for the specific needs of the tortoise. But like I said, for hatchling tortoises, it's very similar care all around for every single one of them. They do need a higher humidity to help with shell growth and development. But let's get to the steps now and set this thing up. So basically we're going to be working from the ground up. So from the ground up, basically, like I said, we have the cement mixing tub right here. That's going to be the enclosure. But on this side over here, we're going to have like a warm side and a cool side, and this is going to be where the hide box is going to go. So this is one of these 7-gallon storage containers, and I put a hole right here. I did this with all my other tortoises too, so it's kind of like a little den for these guys to go into. So we're going to put this in here. Eventually we're going to fill this up with sphagnum moss so they have a nice humid height to go in at the night if they want to, and then they can come out here and they have all this room out here to do whatever they need to. They can thermoregulate, which basically means they can go from the hot side to the cool side if they want to. That's essentially what you want, is a nice gradient for your tortoise to determine where it wants to be. So that's where we're going to be giving them. So yeah, we're going to have the hide box over here. They're going to have all the room over here. So now that we have this in place, basically right where I want this to be is where I want to put the bedding. So let me grab the bedding and we'll put that in. So if you're new to the channel, first off, welcome. Hopefully you guys click that subscribe button down below so you guys can stick around, because we're doing a whole bunch of cool projects down the line. If you're new to the channel, you're going to learn what I use as substrate. If you're old to the channel, you already know what I use, but this is basically just 100% non-fertilized cypress mulch. And I can get this pretty inexpensively cheap at like garden stores or landscaping stores. I definitely prefer this as a reptile substrate because it holds in a good amount of moisture for humidity, as well as it can dry out pretty quickly as well too. And the last thing that I like is it's not a flat surface for these guys, and that's a very important overlooked thing for tortoises, is you don't want to give them something that's a flat surface, because you want these guys to be all-terrain vehicles like they are, because it actually helps with their muscles and their legs. Now you're probably wondering, what are you talking about? Don't they always use their legs? Not quite. Sometimes they can stop using their back legs and they will get lazy and they'll start to drag. And you don't want that to happen. That can actually be caused by two separate things. That can be caused by poor diet and vitamin supplementation, as well as it can also be caused by the substrate being too flat for these guys and they're not actually utilizing those muscles. So you use it or you lose it, basically. So we don't want that. We want these guys to be all-terrain vehicles like they are. So leopard tortoises versus other tortoises, I'm going to put a little bit more in here, but you don't necessarily need too deep of a substrate versus, like, say, like a redfoot tortoise or something like that, because these guys aren't common to burrow. These guys normally will not burrow. Sometimes you will occasionally see them kind of burrow, but it's not necessarily something that they occasionally do. Normally these guys will just hide out in the grasses all day and they'll be totally fine. They don't need to burrow down or anything like that. So this is a perfect amount of substrate right here for these guys. So that's pretty much all set and ready to go for them right there. So now inside here, I'm not going to put the cypress mulch. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using this, which is sphagnum moss. And sphagnum moss you can basically get at any kind of flower store. Basically this stuff will come in clumps like this. I will either get mine at the garden store or I will get mine at like reptile shows especially. You can get this stuff pretty inexpensively cheap. But it basically all sponges out like this. A little goes a long way because it will just all sponge out. But I just want a nice small little carpeting of this stuff all around in here. So this is going to be all misted down once we're all finished. And that will be all humid in here. This will all be set here. This will be a little bit drier out here. And they'll have that gradient to kind of determine where they want to be as well. That's definitely important. It's great for shell development and development of the tortoises in general as well too. And that's basically all I'll do. And then on top, I will also, if you've seen my past videos, I will also put a link for my DIY foggers, so you guys can also think about using those as well. It's a super easy way. I have one actually right over here all rigged up, and it's a super easy way for these guys basically to get a twice a day fog mist system kind of going for these guys. It helps mist the sphagnum down, so I don't have to necessarily keep worrying about lifting the lid and spraying it, and it keeps it decently humid in there as well. So these things hold moisture pretty well and humidity. And it's very common at this age and at this size for a baby tortoise of any kind to be hiding a lot, and that is very common because they are most vulnerable at this age and at this size to predators. So these guys will commonly hide and they'll only come out to basically eat and then they'll go back into hiding. So that's quite common if your tortoise is hiding as a baby. Totally common for these guys to do that, and then as they grow and mature they will gain their confidence and come out and be more active. So then what I basically use for the food and water bowl are these guys right here, which are clay saucers that you can use for plants. So these guys right here, these work perfectly. We're gonna have one for food and one for water. The food one is really nice because you want these guys to basically rub their beaks against this, and it helps shave their beaks down and keep them trimmed so they don't overgrow. So that's a really nice thing. So while they're grabbing at their food and their leafy greens, they're going to be also trimming away at their beaks and kind of shaving that down so it doesn't get overgrown, which works perfectly. So we're going to basically put these guys not all the way on the warm side, and we're not going to put these guys on top, but we're going to bury them into the substrate a little bit. These guys have excellent senses of smell as well too, so you don't have to bring your tortoise out to feed it. The tortoise will come out to the food. These guys are eating machines, that's for sure. Wait till you see it. We're going to feed them at the end here. And if you guys have any questions about this build or about your leopard tortoises or tortoises in general, definitely leave them down below. I would love to answer any questions that you guys have. Alright, so basically we have the foundation all built here like I said, and now we're going to build our way up. So now we have to worry about the lighting situation for these guys. So basically we're going to have two separate lights on these guys that are crucial for any tortoise basically. So for the leopard tortoise specific, what we're going to need first is the basking side over here. So the warmest side over here is basically going to be at about 95 to 100 degrees. You basically want your basking spot to be. Only this area. You want this area to be warm, and then you want it to cool off down to the coolest area over here, which would be in probably the mid 70s, I would say. It could be a little bit degrees cooler, it could be a little bit degrees warmer, but you want to keep it in the 70s for the cool side of the enclosure, I would say. What I have is a temperature gun, and I will shoot this spot over here, and I will shoot this spot over here, and also in the middle, and kind of see what the gradient is until I perfect it. Definitely also recommend using a thermostat to also monitor your temperatures. That's also important as well. So yeah, there I'm going to rig that up just like that, so that light is going to dangle right here. So that's all hooked up on hooks up here, so that's all set up and ready to go. So the basking light will be right here. It'll beam right down over here. That'll be totally fine. And now what we also need, which is also extremely crucial for these guys, is this right here. So I use the Sursun VivTech lights right here, which gives off UVB and UVA lighting. UVB and UVA lighting is very important for reptiles, specifically tortoises. So you definitely need these guys. It is definitely a must for these guys. So we are going to be putting these on, and I've been using the VivTech products for all my tortoises and also my tegu as well too. They've been loving these guys. They're not a sponsor, but I definitely love these guys' products. It works great, so I am definitely a big fan of these guys for sure. The highest point of UVB lighting is going to be over here. We're going to be going down the spectrum down over here until the lowest point is going to be over here until we reach in here where it's going to be pure darkness. So, and voila, just like that, we have the UVB, UVA lighting, as well as we have the heating element right there. So those are all perfect. Eventually I'm going to get timers, and then we're going to set these all up. So that's all going to be done at the end, but at least we have these guys into place. You guys are also probably wondering, how am I going to be keeping the heat in? Well, the best thing that I normally do was I normally put insulation on this side as well as this side. Honestly, when I put the insulation in, it looks kind of unattractive, you know? I mean, it doesn't look appealing to the eye, but it works really well. And I think just for like tortoise tables and stuff like that, it's definitely something that you could either do in two different ways, and I kind of do a mix of both, where you either want to kind of greenhouse it in, so like greenhouse on the front, back, sides, everything like that, you can do that. That would work well. I would recommend, if you want an inexpensive way of doing that, I use the window cover sealers, the plastic wrap that you can basically put over your windows. You could buy a whole bunch of it for like 10 bucks and it would last you a very long time. So you can also use that. So I do that and I drape the top over. But for the sides, since I have this and it's kind of insulation that's already fully sealed, so it doesn't mold or get anything into it, like any liquid or moisture, I'm going to put this basically on the sides like this, and that'll be completely covered like that. So that'll kind of hold in some more heat as well too, especially over here. But the issue with this as well is it doesn't look that good. So what I'm going to do is I have an idea where I'm going to actually be using this other pond liner that I have, this just excess pine liner that I have, and I don't like this stuff. It was definitely not good pond liner to use. I didn't want to throw it all away because I have all this excess, but it's like poster board. But it would actually work really well if I just made a small little wall here and over here to hide the actual insulations. All right, so the pond liner is all cut. We're gonna put this into place. And it's just basically for aesthetic for me, and as well as it's going to also keep in that heat. All right, so I'm basically gonna do that, sandwich in the insulation on both sides, and I'm gonna do the repeat over here. So, hey, look at that, what do you know? We have light now. So we have the UVB light as well as the heat lamp on. I really wanna well soak for the initial soaking of the sphagnum moss, and we're really just gonna mist this down right here. We have that fully spritzed down, so now I'm gonna put this lid on. There's a little hole right here that I kind of soldered out with my soldering iron. That's going to be for the tube to actually use the fogger. And voila, so that's all done. So now basically this thing is all ready to go for tortoises. And like I said, this is basically a grow out for these guys. So these guys are still super tiny. We're gonna give these guys their vegetables right now. They're gonna be eating, and this is going to be good for them for probably another, I'd say 6 to 8 months, and then we'll upgrade them again. But yeah, right now I'm super excited. Let me go get the greens for these guys and let's introduce them to their brand new enclosure. I'm super stoked. Let's go. All right, as you can see, these guys are just turboing their way away here, and I have their food all set up with their water right now. So let's just pick these guys up and throw them into their brand new enclosure and see how they like it. So here they go, and immediately these guys are off to the races, and they are going to run to the food because these guys just are, like I said, eating machines. So look at them go right now. So they're each going to find a little corner here. And kind of a nice little welcoming party, if you ask me, if you just kind of come into your new home and there's already food in the fridge. But yeah, let's widen this out a little bit so you guys can see what's going on here. So as you can see, these guys have a lot of room to grow. So these guys are going to be in here temporarily until they get much bigger, and then we will be able to upgrade them to something a lot larger like the redfoot tortoises. But like I said, we have the UVA, UVB lighting over here, the heat lamp right over here. They also have their humid hide over here that they can go into at any time, and they can get away from the sunlight if they need to. And all these lights are going to be on timers as well too. So these guys are super content in here. I love this. I think they're going to absolutely enjoy this. They basically almost have nearly double the space that they had before. And it's just, I think this is going to be a lot better for them to grow out in. Again, the enclosure that I built for these guys in the aquarium was good, and it worked out fine for these guys, but I think these guys are going to thrive a lot better in this kind of enclosure here. Plus, too, like I said, basically this fills in the whole entire extra spot here in the reptile room. I'd say we're pretty stocked up in here now. I think it's like full circle now that we have these guys in here. The reptile room is looking phenomenal, so I'm super excited about that. But let's just look at these guys eating. I mean, these guys are just eating machines, that's for sure. So these guys are definitely chowing down right here. And look at these guys go. I think these just are amazing tortoises. But yeah, let's just go out one more time here. You guys can check this out in full right here. Get a good look at what this enclosure looks like. But I am basically a happy, sweaty mess right now, that's for sure. This is such a cool new addition here to the reptile room, that's for sure. I'm super happy to finally get these guys in here so I can see these guys every time I'm in here. So it's just really excited to get this all brightened up and lively, that's for sure, and that's what I want to do. But thank you guys so much again for watching today's video. If you guys have any questions or any comments about leopard tortoises, definitely leave them down below. I also have a whole care guide I will leave above too, and links for if you you guys have any questions about care for a baby leopard tortoise, definitely check that video out as well too. It's a two-parter basically for these kind of videos. I have the setup video as well as the care video, so you guys can check out both of those videos. It will help you guys out greatly. I love my leopard tortoises and I am so excited to be raising these guys up, that's for sure. But thank you guys again for watching today's video. If you could do me a couple favors, if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate it, as well as hit that notification bell so you know when I upload. And definitely check me out on my social media, because I'm going to be posting about these guys a whole lot more now that they're in here, so you guys can check them out and see what they're doing and how their progress is, as well as all my other reptiles as well too. I always am updating them as well there. But I figured a good closing shot would be on these guys right here eating. So thank you guys again for watching, and until next time, we will see you guys soon. Take care.